When's the last time we even did a show?
I think we just skipped a week plus PAX. Week and a half. I have our website up. I
September
can just look.
12th. Okay, a lot has happened since then.
Yep. All right, I'm just going to hit go live. We are live. All right. It's Monday, September 25th, 2023. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight we are talking about search engines and why they kind of don't fucking work anymore. So yeah, I skipped a bunch of shows. Lots happened. I spent the weekend in Michigan. Well, I spent like a couple days in Michigan in like a whirlwind tour to see a bunch of family, many of whom I haven't seen, since COVID happened, because that really put the kibosh on travel, coupled with we got sick earlier in the year and had to miss a wedding, so people we were going to see at the wedding we also hadn't seen. So we went back and we saw basically everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a really good time. But there's this weird thing that happened on the flight. And I don't know if it's a Michigan thing.
At least your flight went and came back.
Oh, yeah. Our second flight was so far ahead of schedule. They're like, yeah, they actually gave us a ground stop because if we took off now, we'd get to JFK too early. They wouldn't have a slot for us to land in. So we're going to sit here and wait and take off later. And you'll get there at the same time because we're going to make up time in the air.
That's fine.
Yeah. So, but
I don't know if this is just me, but it feels like every time I've ever flown in a plane, and there's a reported departure and landing time, right? The estimated time of departure and estimated time of arrival.
Yep.
Right? And is every single time, I think literally 100%.
Well, departure is the moment you disengage from the gate.
But the point is the estimated time of arrival, right? When you're on the flight that has not been delayed, has not been canceled, the original time.
Yeah, the one where there's nothing hinky going on.
Exactly. Every single time that I've flown in a plane somewhere and there were no problems, it just took off and landed, right? We always land pretty significantly ahead of the estimated time of arrival, at least 15 minutes, like a somewhat significant amount of time. Sometimes I think at least a half hour could be, right?
Yep.
It's like it seems like every single airline, at least in the United States, but also I've gone to other countries once or twice, right, are always padding out that time at the end to some extent.
Yep,
right?
which does make sense.
Going faster and making up time somewhere.
Yep, partly I think it's due to the fact that like JFK has often terrible problems where even if a plane gets there on time, it can't land because JFK is like over capacity. Like New York
is, I think, the least on-time airport, and I think LaGuardia is the second least on-time airport in the United States.
Poseidon do not strike me down. I am not better than the gods, but I have almost no problems with flights being like, it's so rare that a flight is late or delayed, and I fly kind of often, like between work and family stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty rare, but
yep.
But it's like I think the only times I've had a problem were, the time we discussed on the last episode, and
which my cousin listened to that. A bunch of my family, I realized they watch the live streams or they listen to Geek Nights, and everyone was asking me like, "Oh, how's Scott?" Like, yeah, that was quite a trouble he had.
Okay, they got my family has not mentioned Geek Nights ever.
Yep. Hi, Mom. So, one weird thing happened on this flight, and I have never seen this happen ever in my life flying. But two caveats: most of my flying is
unruly passenger.
No, I've seen that. I have seen someone get hauled off in handcuffs before.
Yeah. The flight, like some of the flight crews are actually protesting because of unruly passengers.
Oh yeah, it's
becoming a bigger problem.
It is actually, the data shows it is becoming a problem at a catastrophic rate. And you know what is rising at the same rate? Road rage.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, nothing like that.
I feel like if you're an unruly passenger or road rage, you should just be permabanned. No recourse.
I'd say
comebacks,
if you commit an aggressive if you commit an aggressive road rage action as a car, you should never be able to pilot a car again for the rest of your life with no recourse.
No matter what you do, it's like too bad, no second chance, right?
Maybe if you get a panel of doctors to prove that you had a mental break or a problem and that it is now resolved and that you're a healthy, happy member of society able to reoperate a vehicle. But if you committed it just because you're a raging dickhead, you never get it again. But no, this was so. The caveat is that most of my flying is for work, so most of my flying is in business class, where there's often stuff going on in the back of the plane. Like I can hear all sorts of troubles, but just I'm in a different part of the plane behind that little thing. So on both our flight to Detroit and our flight from Detroit, a whole bunch of people just sat in the wrong seats. Like they had a ticket with a seat, and they just sat in a different seat. And then someone comes up and they're like, "You're in my seat." And then the person who's in the wrong seat, it's not a matter of, "Oh, sorry," and they move. They then say, "Oh, well, I wanted to sit here. Do you want to take my seat instead?" And they try to point them at their much shittier seat. I saw this happen with 5 different people on our flight to Detroit and 2 different people on our flight from Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, people, because the airlines, if you buy the cheapest ticket, does not let you pick your seat.
Yep.
And people basically, this is, I think, I've noticed this because I've been, I guess, foolishly reading too much of the "Am I the Asshole" subreddit. Right?
It's like staring into a train wreck, but a really interesting train wreck, and it's hard to. I also gaze into that abyss.
It's like Judge Judy if Judy was the internet. Anyway, so but basically, there's a lot of people who think they're the asshole or are the asshole, right? And it has to do with basically people being, right, conflict averse or people pleasers or unwilling, right?
Oh,
and
the person who does not,
who are like people who won't stand up for what's right and just say, "Let's keep the peace," right?
Yep.
They're like, "Just apologize so we can end this conflict. I just don't want to fight."
I see where you're going with this, because 100% of these interactions, the person didn't fight and just went and sat in the shittier seat.
Right. So it's basically when you have, so a person who doesn't want to fight, doesn't want to cause conflict, that sort of attitude, that person is usually a good person, right? They have a good heart. They don't want to hurt people. They're not angry, right?
I would even extrapolate the kind of person who worries that they're the asshole is less likely to be the asshole.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd say the majority of people in that subreddit get a "not the asshole" vote.
Yeah.
But there are plenty who do. But the point is that when you have that attitude, right, of not fighting, not willing to stand up for yourself, cowardice, right, you're a good person. But in being a coward, you are enabling the assholes and basically making assholes win.
Oh, remember that chart of the ladder, not the bad ladder theory, but the stupid people, bandits, suckers, etc. Those people are the suckers who are exploited by the bandits.
Right. So it's like, you could go, if you have a lot of guts, right? You could go and sit in like a first class seat, right? And if the person who had paid for that seat is too much of a coward to actually go and ask the flight attendant to kick you out of the seat, you can just get a first class ticket for free and be a huge asshole.
Now,
right?
the caveat being, I am confident that is a situation where the person sitting in that seat is more likely to be a Karen than the average person. Yes. So you'll have an immovable object fighting against another immovable object. It'll be funny.
Right. But, you get the idea is that if you are one of those good people who is afraid of conflict, right, I encourage you, right? Obviously, you're not going to have the spoons to do this all the time, right, because of your nature, and I understand that. But be courageous as much as you can, right? As much as you are able, stand up for yourself and for what is right, even if it creates an uncomfortable conflict, right? And you have to tell on someone or argue or... I understand that for some people, like if you're a black person or a not white person, that's going to put you in a dangerous situation.
Maybe, and that hence the caveat of pick your battles.
Right. But do it as much as it is as you are safe and able to do so, because every time you do it, every time you don't do it, basically evil people are just getting free wins and becoming more emboldened to do, whether it's small things like stealing your seat on a plane, right? Or much bigger things, right? Like, controlling our society, winning big evil business deals, right? All kinds of, things like that. So,
and I guess the other thing about this trip that was interesting is I remembered a heuristic that is, it took me a long time. Like, it really fucked me up when I moved to Rochester, and in New York, like, this heuristic will sound insane. But driving in Michigan again, because we landed, what are you going to do? Rent a car. There's literally no other way to get around.
Nope.
So the heuristic in Michigan, and this also applies to a big chunk of Ohio and Wisconsin, and even Indiana, is however far, if you want to guess how long it'll take you to get anywhere, take the number of miles away it is, it's that many minutes. And that is like so accurate, it's shocking. And it was exactly
60
accurate.
miles an hour is a mile a minute.
And the speed limit on freeways is 70 miles an hour, but there'll be a little traffic, so it kind of evens out. But also because it's a grid, there's basically a nearly unlimited number of ways to get anywhere because you follow the grid. And if there's traffic, you kind of just go around the traffic and it all evens out. And a mile a minute ends up being a really accurate heuristic. And I remember being late to stuff a lot when I first moved to Rochester before I realized that there are places where there's only one or two roads that go between one place and another place.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, ban all these roads. I hate those freeways, but they work for car people.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of stuff. I guess I'll just dump all my opening bits now, make them all short, because otherwise they'll be forgotten for the next episode. So since the last time we did Geek Nights, I went to see Death Clock and Baby Metal at the same concert. This is the third time I saw Baby Metal, right? And it's like, it's not any different. Basically, they have some, are they my favorite metal band? No, right? Do I like them? Yeah, I like them quite a bit. But they have some way, I don't know what the hell they're doing, where they could just make everybody, all kinds of people, all shapes and sizes and ages come together, and everyone loses their mind more than the usual amount, right? I don't know how they have something going on. So if you get another opportunity to see their show, even if you hate metal, you should probably go, at least in my opinion. Second thing that happened, I don't know if I talked about the Affordable Art Fair. When I went, I thought I had gone a year ago, but apparently it's every 6 months, and I went 6 months ago. and I'm like, wait, we only went 6 months ago? Why did I come back again? I don't need to see affordable art that often. But I did see some interesting arts there, right? One of them, there was somebody who, I guess, his family owns one of those hotels in Wildwood. And lives in Delaware.
All right.
Basically, his art was he would go to Wildwood in the off season when no one was there and take, photos and then print them out. He has a photo of one of the hotels with snow all around and obviously no one there because it's off season. And apparently this is a big seller. And I was like, I recognize these photos. And I asked the person, I'm like, are these from Wildwood, New Jersey? They're like, yeah. Core Brothers sign line on the ground. Okay. I wrote about in the forum, our forum. So if you want to know what I have to say, I won't waste your time here. You can go read in our forum where I wrote. I went to the newly renovated by Netflix Paris Theater.
Oh, yeah, to see the Triple R.
To see RRR, which if you haven't heard of that, go to YouTube, type in the letter R 3 times in a row. That's it.
It's like instead of summoning Beetlejuice, you summon a very fantastic movie.
If you see a trailer for a movie from India with a tiger in the thumbnail, probably that's what you're looking for.
That's the kind of movie where if we had seen one frame from it at any point at RIT, had it existed, we would have definitely watched it as fast as possible.
Oh yeah, I mean, come on, I think it's probably it's obviously more action oriented and longer and has more singing and dancing. Not that it does not, but it has that same fun of Attack the Gas Station,
yeah,
of live action ridiculousness, right, and preposterousness. But it's like 10,000 times better than Attack the Gas Station. But regardless, the audio in that theater, they basically put in the best projectors and best sound system that is currently available in the world, right? I think they said there were over 500 speakers or something in their Atmos, whatever. And they're like, yeah, we're showing this movie mostly to flex our sound system, right? This will be the movie that really tests it out. And it's like, it wasn't so much, Atmos is really, they advertise it as being about, the positionalness, right? And sure enough, there were speakers on every surface in the theater, right? So sounds come from all directions. But I think what it is that when they have that many speakers, right, and that level of power, first of all, they can get really loud without any kind of distortion, right? So I definitely got permanent hearing damage of some kind, right? It was that, the Apple Watch complained immediately.
That is a sign of a very good movie, problems notwithstanding.
Right. But the second thing is that, there's a lot of music in that movie. And I noticed this in particular during one of the big dancing scene where there's a drum, like an actual drum set that someone is, playing, right? And even when you have like audiophile level speakers in someone's house, right? It's like you can still somehow tell the difference between I'm at the symphony and a guy hit the timpani, right? And a recording of a guy hitting a timpani, right? It doesn't sound exactly the same. It's like even with the highest lossless recording and the fanciest speakers, right? But in that theater, it sounded the same, right? You could record the symphony. If you recorded and mastered the symphony correctly, you could sit in that theater and close your eyes and believe you were at the live symphony. And I haven't been blown. I mean, they hyped it, but I guess the hype was real. I hadn't been hit that hard by a movie theater sound system since the first time I saw a THX logo, right? So
good to know.
if there's a movie that would benefit from the ridiculous sound system, I would recommend going to the Paris Theater in Manhattan, New York City, if you can reach it.
Or you can see a Nolan film and maybe understand what anyone's saying.
Yeah, I tell you, whoever mixed it, whatever, it was crystal clear. I could hear everything. It was like at the correct volume. If there was an explosion or talking or anything. It was immaculate. So, and that's what I did between the last show and now.
All right,
it's worthy of note.
And for some reason, I thought that Janelle Monáe concert was later, so there's still tickets.
Tomorrow.
We might just buy some tickets and go tomorrow, so stay tuned.
I'm going to. It's like I bought tickets a long time ago, and it's tomorrow.
It's not sold out. I see plenty of seats that are perfectly affordable.
It's not sold out. I'm like, it's not sold out. Well, Radio City is enormous.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of seats.
But so I was like, oh, it's not sold out. So I told I thought I was, well, I guess I'll see you there tomorrow.
It's funny, as I get older, I can't always tell what will be popular or what will not be. Like even GeekNights panels, like at a con now, it's like, it's either going to be nobody comes to this or the room is full and there's like no middle ground. But I can't predict which is which anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a sign of oldening.
Ooh.
All right, in some, I guess, tech news, it is Monday. So first off, there's a bunch of these all at once, so we'll just merge it all together in one big news. Earlier this month, on like September 8th, there was a 0-day, or at least an unpatched and exploited in the wild vulnerability in iPhones, like iOS devices, that was really serious in that it required 0 click, 0 interaction. It could be triggered by something as simple as seeing an image embedded in a website.
Right. So this was actually, if it's the WebP one that you're talking about.
Yep.
So this affected, I think, literally every software that displayed WebP images, because there's basically like one library for rendering WebP, like the Google one, and it's like, it's sort of like SQLite, right? It's like everyone just embeds the source code of SQLite in their own program.
Yep.
So everyone has the WebP image decoding code in their program. So if there's a problem in that code, everyone needs to update their programs and redeploy, right? And so the core WebP image decoder had a security vulnerability in it. And so like every software in the universe, it was like it was, that serious that you could just, if you could get someone to display your WebP image that was infected, that like literally they visit your website that has the evil WebP, they could theoretically do evil stuff.
Yep, the specific payload and the other 3 0 days I'm about to talk about had a similar vulnerability. They all are most commonly used by evil people to deploy things like the Pegasus spying software, which is used by governments and mobs.
So yeah, update if you have devices, or browsers or any sort of, all your computers, all your phones, all your tablets, update them right now. And if you, like, this is serious, if you have an older device that has browsers and, like a smart TV or Nintendo, and they render WebP images, I mean, you probably shouldn't use those devices anyway if they can't be updated, right?
Yep.
But an old iPhone that doesn't
if you have an iPhone that can't get updates anymore, death sentence.
Right. It's like basically if you have any such device that does not update, right? And it's not just because of this issue, just in general. do not use that device. First of all, A, better off just don't connect it to the internet. But B, if you do connect it to the internet, do not put any personal or serious sensitive information on that device. Don't do anything with that device that involves your personal information anyway, right? You can use it to like play some old games or something.
Maybe.
Right. It's fine, right? But, especially if those games won't run on something newer. But don't use those older unpatched devices for any serious business.
Yep. Now, the underlying story here is that 0-day, zero interaction vulnerabilities like this have been relatively rare historically. And even if they've existed, they've been relatively rarely exploited historically.
So
Apple devices have also...
A lot of times people follow, procedures where they discover them, they report them, they fix them, and then they announce them after that.
Yep.
And so...
But coupled with that, Apple devices, for a lot of reasons that we don't need to get into, have often historically had fewer such vulnerabilities. None of those things are true anymore. These kinds of vulnerabilities are going to happen all the time now. They're only going to get worse for a lot of reasons, including state-sponsored entities with, like the U.S.'s three-letter organizations. But imagine those organizations in every other country on Earth are spending a lot of time, effort, and money trying to engage in basically cyber warfare, right. And they're very well funded, and there's no way to eliminate this kind of vulnerability.
And if you see like the red dot that says update now, like don't put it off. Like it's like a lot of times the iPhone would be like, I'll update tonight when you're sleeping. Don't worry about it. And I'm like, no, you will update to now.
Yep.
Bring me to Java now. We're gonna spend all day.
But I guess this is gonna get way worse in a hurry, especially because there are some firms now looking into such things as using large language models to auto-generate specifically targeted malware.
Mm-hmm.
So, some other news, I guess this is yours. Reddit is about to make itself extremely shitty.
So Reddit had some shittiness. They went through a dark period, right? They're still in that dark period, but they've managed to hold on basically after. It's like they took some damage that they haven't repaired, but they're still flying, right? It's like a ship with that got torpedoed, but it's still sailing. It's going to make it home unless it takes more damage, right? That's the state of Reddit. And Reddit is doing something that is basically, if you look at the whole picture, it's basically a +1 minus probably more than 1, right? So they had a system previously where you could buy Reddit Gold, right? And which is basically turn real money into Reddit currency. And you could use the Reddit currency to like award people. And I've received awards, and it's like, whatever, right?
Yep.
But basically, if you write a post or a comment that is so good that other users who have paid money are like inspired by it, then they like award you. They're like, oh my God, I upvote this, but like I need to upvote this extra hard. I'm going to give you like, awards. And you'll see comments that have like a shit ton of upvotes, but also have lots of little emojis of various characters next to them. That's like, this comment is so great, this post is so great that everyone is just like throwing money at it because it was so good. And the most that person writing that content would ever get would be like, free Reddit premium for a time period.
Like Board Game Geek has a similar thing with their coins. And you know what? I realized that my account, which is also the GeekNights account, has a lot of them from the year I never even knew was the thing until recently.
Yeah, you get free ones on Board Game Geek, right? So that system is sort of good, sort of bad, right? The system is good because it sort of tries to give people some incentive, if people care about those things, to write good content that everyone will love. And it does provide some non-advertising funding, of course, right? The money goes to Reddit, right? So what they threw out that system, and they announced, they didn't say what they were replacing it with until today. What they're replacing it with is a simpler system where basically you pay some amount of money to get like these like big upvotes, right? So it's like you can regular upvote everything is normal, but when there's something real good, you basically can spend money to upvote it harder, right? It doesn't appear that actually affects the ranking of the content. I haven't seen any notes about that, but it does award the person who posted the content with real money, effectively speaking, right? It's like your when you see content on Reddit that is so good, you're willing to throw real dollars at it. It enters this system where Reddit takes a cut, but it seems like most of the money does end up with the person who made the content. Now, this is good because
I'd say ish in that YouTube doing that is a problem.
Right. Well, the good part of it is that Reddit is recognizing, like, hey, the value of our platform is the content that people are making, and they're not, those people making that content, doing moderation, writing posts, are not getting anything back, right? We're basically just looting them. So we'll give back to them, right? And that seems like justice, right? Like, oh, I wrote a great post on Reddit and Reddit gets all the benefits. They run all the ads and keep all the money. It's like, no, if you wrote something so good that people are throwing money at it, you'll get that money, some of it, right? A lot of it. It seems more just. The problem is, right, the negative here is that you're now going to have people who realize, wait, I can make money posting on Reddit. That could be a job, right? As soon as you enter money in the equation, real money, people now are basically, just like on YouTube, just like on Twitch, just like on every other platform where you can make money, right, are going to now start up whole industries, basically, of being a leech and snagging onto Reddit and trying to, on purpose, spend all fucking day creating content that you hope will get mega upvoted, and so that you can basically make a career, right?
Yep.
Just posting stuff and getting people to send you money because the stuff you post is so good. Now, all the upvotes have to come from real people who spent money. So I guess if the content you make is succeeding in this plan, that you're adding real value, you're making real posts and comments that people like.
Maybe, but at the counterpoint,
but
are you catering to the whims of the kind of person who would spend money to upvote something on a site like Reddit?
Yep. Yeah.
I think back to RIT where you
posting content. You're not posting this content in good faith. You're not making the content because it's something you have interest in or knowledge about or are good at writing. You are good at making a content that makes money, and this will cause the kind of content that is posted on Reddit to shift dramatically. The user base, right? Well, now you'll have an influx of people who come to Reddit not because they want to be there, but because they want to make money. Just like how Magic the Gathering has a lot of people in their community who are not there because they want to play a good card game, but because they want to buy and sell cards and make money.
And the worst part is they're going to flood every Reddit community with attempts to make money.
Reddit community with a significant number of users in it, right?
I think with large language models, things are going to flood every Reddit community very quickly.
Well, Reddit also has a lot of restrictions on automated posting. It makes it even difficult for like us to automatically post new episodes to like our own subreddit. But yeah, it's gonna be a thing, and I don't think.
I'm reminded of two topics where we've talked about this before. One is we gave a talk at PAX East 2011, the triple threat, 3 short subjects in gaming. And the second one was called The Game Makes the Community. And we talked a lot about how
they're changing the game and therefore the community is going to change.
Yep. And we specifically talked about how rewarding people for post volume is always a bad idea. And this effectively...
This doesn't reward for post volume.
Arguably, it will indirectly in that more volume, just because, I mean, spam, like some percentage of people click on spam.
Sure,
volume.
Even with the old system, though, it was like the only things that got, the all those awards were like,
True.
Extremely hot posts and comments, right? So.
But two, I think back to when we used to use Slashdot before it got like really shitty, back in the 90s, like late 90s through early to mid 2000s, then Slashdot became shitty. But during that era, Scott and I had a game, and I kept this game up for a long time. My goal was, and I succeeded for years, was to only ever post to Slashdot if I was sure I would get a +5, meaning the moderators all voted me up to, there's a whole system I don't want to explain about how it worked, but +5 meant it was like the maximum rating on a post.
Higher than +5.
No, it couldn't.
The way Slashdot used to work in the early 2000s.
Yep. So you're supposed to be anywhere between +5 and basically -1. So +5 was like, you made an amazing post that is important to Slashdot. And
everyone agrees with this.
Yep. But the Slashdot community was the way it was. It was very clear the kinds of posts that could get +5s, and I basically decided to only ever post if I knew I'd get a +5, and I would lose if I ever broke my streak. And I had a multi-year streak of always getting +5s. But the posts I posted were shitty bullshit. I was writing what I knew the people who are moderating Slashdot would vote up, and I was not writing things that I necessarily strongly believed in. I wasn't writing the kind of content I would write if I wasn't going for that +5. My own behavior was drastically modified by this goal of getting other people to click a plus button next to my post.
Yep. So every person out there who is writing content with the thought in their mind of, I want to make money, I need to write what will get an award, is going to basically bring the quality of overall Reddit down. And
yep. All right. But anyway, things of the day. So I've been watching a lot of physics videos, and I know I use them as thing of the day, and I talk about it a lot, but I hit a point to where I was lacking some basic foundational maths in that there's a lot, like, I understand a lot of concepts of calculus, but I'm not good at calculus. Like, I need someone else to like actually do it. But when it comes to imaginary numbers in particular, I realized I didn't have like a fluent understanding of what the fuck they are. Like, I knew how to use them in math. It was like the opposite problem, but I didn't know what the fuck they were. And they kept coming up in all the physics videos I was watching. So
it's like, I had the same problem where like, I know that my imaginary number knowledge was more than 0, but it was very, very weak.
You multiply a number by the square root of -1, and now, bam, now you got imaginary numbers, and you can have an imaginary component of a number.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I knew that much, and that's about all I knew. And you know, it always been in my mind, like, should I figure that out? I should go read about it, learn about it. But also, I don't need that in my everyday life. So why should I go and bother? And, you know, so I just never did.
Yep. And
even though I thought I should.
And the kinds of physics you do in high school, even if you take the AP Physics C with like the crazy calculus stuff, you won't actually need to understand this to do that math. So it was fine.
Yeah, I think there was maybe one class at RIT where they taught it, and that didn't help.
So this video, it's 5 minutes and 46 seconds long, and it like unlocked something in my fucking brain. And I'm not saying I'm not an expert at imaginary numbers, but now I understand what they are.
Yep.
Like
I just the 5-minute video, I was like, Jesus fuck. I'm hating every single other math person. I'm Team Gauss.
Yeah. So the underlying story here is that Carl Friedrich Gauss, you know, the guy that Gauss is named after,
Magnet Man.
Yeah. Who? Fun fact. You know what country he was born in? The Holy Roman Empire.
Okay.
So Gauss.
I was going to guess Germany, I guess, but that would have not been entirely wrong.
No, would have been close enough. So Gauss was mad about this back then, and he made a strong argument that everyone else in the math world gave imaginary numbers a stupid name, and it was confusing, and we shouldn't have called them that. And he was right. Everyone else was wrong. I am as mad now as he was then. There's a quote I got to read because it's so good. This is what Gauss said. That this subject has hitherto been surrounded by mysterious obscurity is to be attributed largely to an ill-adapted notation. If, for example, +1, -1, and the square root of -1 had been called direct, inverse, and lateral instead of positive, negative, and imaginary, such an obscurity would have been out of the question. And he is fucking right. Imaginary numbers are just another dimension on the number line. That's it. That's all they are. Bam.
Yep.
Done.
That's it.
And it turns out multidimensional math is extremely useful because the buried lead, if you watch a few more of these videos,
we live in a place with at least 3 dimensions,
right? But the number line that you learn in school is also kind of fake in that it really implies that every number is on the number line and there's an infinite number of numbers on the number line. And that is absolutely not true. And even how we do negatives is entirely arbitrary. So the best part of the video, though, is when they do a little AR thing and they show you what the square root of -1 like solving an equation like that actually looks like using imaginary numbers for real with a 3-dimensional visualization, that'll just hit your brain right in the, oh shit, I get it now, like right in that spot.
Yeah, well,
sorry, Gauss.
Showed this to me 20 years ago.
Yep. Every high school math teacher should show their kids this video or at least explain it this way.
If you got the smart kids.
Yeah.
I don't think the not smart, if it's not the honors class, I don't think anyone will care.
I mean, the non-honors classes never got to imaginary numbers or any of that
but
stuff.
If you show it to the non-honors class, maybe you'll find the few kids who actually do care. And they're like, even though they're not currently performing at honors level, you can see that they have the curiosity and the interest. And then
the best part is the example they use to explain it, instead of using the square root of -1, they use, where does the equation x squared plus 1 reach 0? And the answer is somewhere off the number line.
Yep.
So anyway, what do you got? Granted, I know what you got, and it's fucking amazing.
Yeah. So, summer's over, right? And the only thing to get us through this dark winter times, besides Halloween, December holidays,
skiing, if you're me,
is if you're a new Geek Nights listener, if you're an old Geek Nights listener, you won't be surprised. The answer is ice hockey. So ice hockey is currently beginning in the National Hockey League. The preseason games have begun. No one cares about those except this one preseason game that was held in Australia. We know. We've been there. People in Australia love sports.
Yep. And again, good old Melbourne. Hockey. Last time we were in Melbourne together, we went to a footy game because we like sports.
I wanted to go to a cricket game, but we couldn't do both. So.
Yep.
And then that soccer game invaded. But ice hockey is not a sport they have really. They have it, but it's very low level in Australia. It's really weak, right? They've got a few rinks here and there, right? But there are people in Australia, thanks to the internet, who can follow ice hockey and are in love with it. And the NHL said, all right, we hear you. We are going to bring a preseason game between the Los Angeles Kings and the Arizona Coyotes to Melbourne and play in Rod Laver Arena, where the Australian Open plays tennis and many other sports also happen, but mostly tennis. And we're going to put an ice hockey right there. You can watch a preseason ice hockey in person, all you Australians. That's awesome that they did that. And sure enough, the hot new rookie for the Arizona Coyotes, Logan Cooley, right? Very recent high draft pick for them. He comes in and he scores was probably the greatest ice hockey goal scored ever in Australia.
No, definitely in Australia, but it's like it's definitely like a top 500 of all time.
Australia, right? So the people of Melbourne and other parts of below the equator got their money's worth. You have now seen the ice hockey, and you can be jealous that we have plenty of this, and you have one.
Yeah, because Americans, you think Americans are obsessed with their football? Nah, our sport is the one.
It's kind of rude to give someone like one taste and be like,
yeah. It's like
it.
Australians think they're all hardcore, and our sport is, we put blades on our feet and run around on ice hitting a piece of rubber with sticks.
Footy is more hardcore than hockey.
Footy, I feel like, is effectively less hardcore in that there aren't blades everywhere.
Let me tell you, if I was forced to play footy or ice hockey,
depends if I'm playing where the people who play these sports might hurt me.
No, you know what? No, I think I'm going to change my mind. Even I was going to say I'd play for the sake of my own safety, I would choose ice hockey, but no, because if I played ice hockey, even with my bad skating, I would fall and hurt myself.
Yep.
If I play footy, I could just run away and hide in the corner and not involve
I feel like footy players, if you and I were forced to be on two teams in a match, they would just not kill us. I feel like an NHL hockeyman would check us like anybody else, and they'd shoot the puck, and it would hit us, and we would just die. We would just die instantly, being punched by Mike Tyson.
I'm saying, no, I would hurt myself on skates, right? Footy, you're on feet, I could just run away and hide. I don't have to.
In the meta moment, the GeekNights Book Club book, The Murderbot Diaries. I am a third of the way through the fifth one, the long one. Murderbot Diaries continue to be pretty fun. Big aliens world type vibes. Short reads.
Every Murderbot diary, and we will do an episode on it in November after yet another Murderbot Diary is scheduled to be released.
Yep.
We will then read it. It shouldn't take me more than a day, I'm going to guess. And then we can do an episode on it.
I will say, having read now over 4 of these books, like getting into the long one, I would enjoy being Murderbot's friend, but it would be the kind of friend I want to meet occasionally, but not live with or spend too much time with. Murderbot's okay. Murderbot's trying hard to be a little Murderbot.
It's a book. You know, it's fiction. You hopefully would make the main character like
Murderbot is really likable, and you just want them to be okay and to be able to watch their shows. Like,
in other book club news, the Iliad by Emily Wilson.
Oh, I'm so excited about that. We might have to pause the regularly scheduled selections of book clubs to just do a book club on that.
Is set to be released tomorrow, September 26th. To 2023. It is 846 pages long.
Now, somehow I feel like I liked reading The Tale of Genji, but we took a while. I feel like I'm going to read that the same way I read one of those Prince of Nothing books. Like, it comes out and I just read the whole thing and then, like, it's done somehow.
There's going to be an audiobook too, but I have a feeling, though, that, you know, reading about Legolamnon and such will be more fun.
Well,
and keep the pace going.
Because Genji's kind of a shit, and while the Greeks and the Trojans are also shits, they're exciting shits.
Yeah. So there you go. That's gonna be a thing. It costs $20 on Kindle and $36 hardcover, no paperback yet.
Yeah.
I recommend library.
Yep.
Where I'm going right now to search and see if I can get on like a waiting list.
Emily Wilson books seem like the kind of books I want to own a physical copy of because these are things I would reread. That translation of the Odyssey changed.
Hardcover though?
Yeah, probably not. I don't know. Hard to say because the Odyssey, like her Odyssey translation, I expect, like we talked about in Geek Nights, I expected it to change how I felt about the Odyssey, but it changed it more than I expected. Another personal minor thing. So I am running in the New York City Marathon on November 5th. So
that's actually happening.
Yep, I'm on the team. I'm running in it. I'm shooting for a 4-hour time, which I think is very achievable. And yeah,
the library does have a listing for it. Let's see how many people are in the queue.
But I do expect on the day of the marathon, I'm going to temporarily set my Google Maps
out on loan.
Yeah, of course. To post my location at any time in case anyone in New York wants to see me. The best part about the New York City Marathon is that the route literally goes past our apartment. Like right there.
I know the route extremely well because I have bicycled it several times.
I bicycled it with you once. It was pretty fun. I can't this time because I got to get up at like 4 fucking a.m. to get on a bus to Staten Island at like 5 a.m. because based on my race history and the pace.
You take the train to
Nope. I learned some things about the New York City Marathon that I should probably save for a separate opening bit. But let's just say they send you an email if you're actually in it because it's hard to get into, and it's basically, to summarize, you can't get here. All the ways you think you're going to get to the start are not going to work. Fuck you. Read this email. You've got to follow these instructions or you will not.
Isn't going to work.
Good luck getting on a ferry that will get you there at the right time to be in your pen and to do all the stuff you got to do. So
just a fucking taxi.
No, taxis, they block the roads. You can't get there.
Okay.
In fact, some of the roads are blocked because of that bike thing you do and other reasons. So basically, I got to get on like this. I got to get on this.
They don't block any special roads for biking. It's just literally they're blocking the roads for the marathon. And
yes.
Bike people are like, oh, the roads are blocked.
But they block it very early. And they basically said
very early.
You will not be able to get to Staten Island, and let alone get anywhere near the starting area unless you do what we say. And they are not kidding.
What if you just went to Staten Island the day before and slept there?
I mean, where? In a hotel? They're probably already all sold out like a year in advance.
But you could have been one of those people who.
I ain't doing that. I'm sleeping in my house. But I have to get on a special bus to be there early, partly because of the time I'm shooting for and my race history. They put me not in the real racers because a real racer will do this marathon. Like I'm saying, I want to run it.
Broke another marathon record.
She
in
did.
Berlin again.
She crushed the women's record. Like crushed
Berlin
it.
seems to be the place that has the perfect weather, the perfect conditions, the perfect route. It's like if you want to win the marathon, that's the place to go.
Yeah, but someone who's a contender will run a marathon in like 2-ish hours. I'm shooting for 4 hours, and that is considered a very good time for a normal person who is a serious athlete, but not a professional athlete running marathons.
Let's take a poll, or some little, if you want to start a little betting.
Ooh,
how many bargles? Well, we can bet on. We gotta do a 2-dimensional one. Finish, didn't finish.
Bargle didn't bargle. So a point of data. I've only ever bargled in 5Ks because I tend to bargle in hard sprint runs. But long distance running, I do all the time. I can run a half marathon in under 2 hours with no food, no water, no stops, without even feeling tired at the end of it. I can run a half marathon.
A lot of free water.
Yep. I can run a half marathon in an hour 41-ish is the best time I ever got.
Cheating if you get Red Bull?
No. I can do whatever pretty much unless it's illegal.
I stand on the side of the road with my bike and give you a Red Bull?
If you handed me a Red Bull somehow on this race, I would absolutely take it and pound it.
Maybe I'll find wherever I can go. I can bike to I know some spots that'll be like quieter, and I could.
You could pull a Kramer, and there's not actually Red Bull in the Red Bull.
I could actually probably go to a spot, right? You pass me, and then I could go to a different spot, and you would pass me again.
So this should be fun. Last meta bit, then we'll get into the main bit about search engines. Announced here first, GeekNights has not one, but 2 events in the schedule at PAX Unplugged, which is coming up sooner than you expect.
You're allowed to announce this even though the schedule is not out?
Yes, so the GeekNights, if you've ever interacted with Penny Arcade and PAX on the back end, they send you an email when they schedule you that basically says, please promote this as much as you want, like go fucking nuts. Don't worry for the schedule to come out. So we're going to do a panel on Saturday at 2:30 p.m. in the Crab God Theater. Way back, we did that talk, Mastering Game Mechanics. It's one of our more popular talks. Really good talk. Scott wrote that one. I wrote Practical Game Theory. We did them back to back. They're both like crazy popular in terms of Geek Nights talks. So we decided to expand on that panel and do a panel about every game mechanic one by one over time that we feel like we have some expertise in. And we're starting with the one that was the easiest, lowest hanging fruit because I think we have the most to say and we've played the most games, worker placement. Excited about this one.
The GeekNights website, the new one is very close to releasability. It's basically releasable right now, kind of.
Yep.
We need to actually set a time to release it. Maybe October 7th or 8th, because I got nothing doing.
Yep, we got to sit down and there's some tasks we got to accomplish, and I got
to deploy it. Once it's deployed, it will be open source, and you could contribute to it if you want to. I guess Also, MagFest. I don't know what's going to be at MagFest quite yet, but I do know this is that if you bought tickets to MagFest, which you can still do, the hotel lottery, because there are not enough hotel rooms to go around.
Yep.
Is going to be on Wednesday, September 27th, 2 days from this recording, so maybe 1 day from when you're listening to it. You would have gotten emails about this if you bought tickets, but if you didn't buy tickets to MagFest and you're thinking about going, buy the tickets now.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're going to miss the hotel lottery.
And if you miss the hotel lottery for MagFest and you don't have a special way to get a room, which I've never bought a MagFest badge. We don't have access to any of this stuff. We get rooms different ways. There's no way to get a hotel anywhere near that con. Like, good fucking luck.
Staying in a hotel that is like not in the National Harbor and using some sort of bus or taxi to get back and forth to MagFest, or you will be trying to find a place in MagFest to hide and sleep under a table in the tabletop zone or something.
Odds of success higher than you'd think.
It's a 24/7 con still, so they hide inside an arcade cabinet. I don't know.
I have definitely encountered people who were under a table in a panel room that wasn't being used, just sleeping straight up in a sleeping bag.
You can't do outside though because the weather is cold.
Yes. I double checked. The room that I have booked up is still listed as booked and valid. So we have a room if you are going to MagFest. There is a very high chance.
We're going to attempt the hotel lottery because you can always cancel that.
Yes, you should attempt the hotel lottery. I'm also going to see if maybe instead of
be a scenario where if I win the hotel lottery, maybe you can cancel that room and come on over. Right?
Yep. Or maybe we'll get a free room from the con because of the Mages stuff, because we are often
That's never happened before, but
no,
would be awesome.
we have been offered them every MagFest. I just don't take it because we always wanted to stay in the nice place across the street instead of staying in the hotel.
Well, the nice place across the street is rumored to have some issues right now.
So. That issue seems to be overrated and seems to be related to people who are trying to like use rooms that they have through timeshares, but have lower priority than other people who have rooms in timeshares.
Anyway,
we will very likely be at MagFest doing between 1 and 5 panels, so stay tuned on that.
5 is too many.
I do a lot more panels than you at most MagFests, but I don't run those panels. There's a lot of panels I just join where I'm just one of the talking heads who shows up, and all I got to do is talk based on what someone else is saying. That's way easier than doing the kind of talks me and Scott do together.
All right, so let's go on to the main bit finally.
All right, search engines don't work anymore, like at all. This is a problem.
Yeah, so we could spend a whole episode talking about search engines, but I think that will take too long. So let's just talk about the recent history, right?
Yep.
Is that basically all the other search engines other than Google got eliminated because Google was better than they were.
Yep.
Google is the champion, and Google is currently in an antitrust lawsuit, and there's going to be other lawsuits about its search dominance. That lawsuit we'll discuss when it's over, I guess, but there's a lot of issues. If you search for it online, you'll see a lot of news stories about the trial being secret and bullshit going on, shady biz.
Yep.
Anyway, but the Google itself, the search results using Google to Google things, right, we don't know there's no data really, but it's my perception is agreeing with the complaints from other people. So I think there is a common growing perception, true or not, that Google is becoming worse at being Google. When you search for things, you are getting more results of shitty content farm websites.
Yep.
Garbagey ad-laden websites.
If you use the parameters like putting minuses or like saying, I want to search for, I don't know, F-16 minus millet, like whatever you're trying to search for, I found those just don't fucking work anymore. And the terms I excluded.
Various reports of the various search box features, like quotes and negative signs, not working as well as they used to or not working at all. But basically, people are not happy with the Google search results. And I notice this particularly, most of my Googling is technology related. I'm usually searching for software questions for my job. And it's clear that I'll do a search for something, even though I'm not really searching. I know the website I want to go to, right? But the fastest way to get there is to not know the URL, because I don't know the URL, right? And not to go to python.org and then search there. The fastest way is to Google and then click the link, which I'm expecting will go to the official Python documentation, because why wouldn't that be the highest ranked thing, right? That is clearly, or at least Stack Overflow, wouldn't that be the highest ranked one, right? But no, if you do searches like that, the top results are all these shady websites I'm not going to name, but you can just tell that when you go to these websites, they're full of ads. They don't let you view them if you have an ad blocker. They're clearly content farmed and not written by humans. They've stolen content from Stack Overflow because Stack Overflow has a Creative Commons license.
And I think most important,
just submitted content.
They often include just fucking wrong information.
Yep, a lot of times they're wrong. Sometimes they're AI ML generated, right? And this isn't just in the software world, though. When you're shopping, you'll get or looking for any kind of questions to things, you get listicles, and it's you expect Wikipedia to be the top result, and it's not. It's way down for some reason, right?
The moment it really hit for me is when I searched for some Star Trek thing, and some fandom.com wiki came up before the Wikipedia article about the series.
Yep, it's the fandom.com wiki probably has the info, but shouldn't the at Wikipedia be higher, right? It's not like Google is so bad that the results aren't there at all. It's just the ranking of them is bad, and there's lots of, not only are there the ads, which I'm blocking, but there's a lot of garbage in the search results. It's not like in the Alta Vista days where 404 is in the search results.
Yep.
Right. But it's still bad because basically it's like you get a whole bunch of search results and now you have to filter them with your eyes or by clicking on them and going back and forth until you find one that's not shit. Right. And so people, obviously, Google itself is less useful. People are searching Reddit directly.
Yep.
People are searching TikTok.
The meme you see out there among like younger people is always type the word Reddit at the end of every Google search, because of all the websites it's going to return, you actually want the Reddit because the Reddit is the place that's most likely to have a person who answered the question.
Generated. Yep.
And it's getting worse rapidly. But there are no alternatives. Bing doesn't return better results if you use it.
I tried DuckDuckGo, which is the privacy-focused search engine. I tried it for like a week.
I use DuckDuckGo still for exactly one thing. If my primary, secondary, and tertiary pirate sites for NHL hockey games fail, I go to DuckDuckGo because unlike Google, I can type NHL Rangers pirate stream and it will not block the results I'm looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I used it, and you know what? It was perfectly fine as the default search engine. I didn't really notice any upside or downside versus Google, really. I would have kept using it, no problem. But DuckDuckGo is just getting results from Bing. They don't have their own index.
Yep.
They're basically just paying to use the Bing API to get results and then doing their own stuff on top of that and not tracking you.
Yep.
So it's not really any better than Bing, and the Bing search is okay. Right? Like, it still has listicles and all that kind of garbage in the results. It's not immune to that.
The worst are if it looks like what you asked is a question, Google now will return at the top. And it'll show like what it thinks is the answer to your question, or it'll list like questions it thinks you're asking. I have literally found that those answers are just wrong more often than right.
It is sometimes wrong, but it's also sometimes right. It's basically just parsing out the highest search result and finding the part of the text that answers your question.
Yep.
Right? So
but often the highest...
If that highest search result is messed up, then you're going to get the wrong answer in that extracted thing.
Yep. And I guess, I think what's happening here is we're at the cusp of another, almost like a semantic apocalypse of the internet, in that there were catastrophic, sometimes good, sometimes bad shifts in how the internet was used, in that old search engines were originally curated. Like, we didn't really have machine learning back then that was usable. So like Yahoo and most search engines were more like indices where a human would decide, like you'd have a staff who would say, if someone searches for the Louisiana Purchase, like what are websites we could recommend about that topic?
Yeah. And that was obviously untenable because
that worked when you could buy books in the bookstore that listed every website. And there was a time when you could.
Book that listed every website.
I used to buy that book.
Okay. Anyway.
This was the 80s.
Yeah. So I think it was the 90s. The book was in there.
There were still books in the 90s. There were still books that had URLs you would type in. Then there was the attempts at search engines that would basically just crawl websites and look for keywords. And that worked okay when there weren't that many websites. But then people realized, especially with the profit motive, you could trick those engines by putting a bunch of keywords unrelated all over your website. A lot of websites used to have a bunch of text in the HTML that didn't show up in the web page to try to trick all those search engines.
Try to do that.
They still do. But those search engines went over the span of like a couple years, maybe less, went from working better than the human curated ones that were all 404s to return nothing but garbage spam sites because they couldn't differentiate content from spam.
Yep.
Google was kind of ahead of its time, and Alta Vista, we go all the way back. They moved into a model of trying to look at what websites were linked to more often to figure out what humans had in aggregate decided were better places to look for information. And then they started to tune their search results based on what did people link to with the keywords that this person is searching for. That was very clever, and that's the basis of almost all of Google up until Google decided to sell its soul to the advertisers. That's kind of how Google worked if you squint and zoom out.
Yeah.
But I don't think that can work anymore, and I think that's happening.
That's why you get like all these people even today, like, hey, I'll pay you to put my blog post my paid content on your blog because your blog has Google Juice, and this blog content has links to my website that will better make my search results better.
Yep.
If I can get you to post it, so I'm willing to pay you to put your content on frontrowrecruiter.com.
That
I get
is
emails. I get spam emails for that. Like,
yeah, I was about to say the only spam that ever gets through my Google filters is that spam, even though I reported to spam.
It's because it doesn't come through as spam because it's actually humans actually emailing you, trying to get you to do that, who will pay you money to do it.
Yeah,
right?
it's
It's not a lie or anything. It's like they will pay you money to post their blog post on your blog because it will help their Google biz.
Which tells you something important. It is that valuable to get Google Juice to an advertiser, scummy, scammer type person that they will give you real money in good faith to help them try to game the Google algorithm.
Yep.
Like that's just underlines the problem. It puts a spotlight on it. But Google in the old days used to more heavily really try to resist that and return.
They succeeded at doing it.
They succeeded.
They would occasionally basically, like, all the SEO people would frequently get mad. They'd be like, oh no, Google changed things again. Sort of like, the Matrix and this deja vu, like they changed something, right? It's like, and then all the SEO people would get big mad because now they had to relearn like their whole industry, right? Like,
but meanwhile, every other human using the internet would breathe a sigh of relief because every time Google did this, search results got really good again and spam disappeared.
Yep. But the SEO people were like, oh no, we have to change all of our techniques and learn all the new rules in order to get our, results. I need my websites to be the top result for these queries.
So I think two things happened, and I don't know which one happened first or which one is the ultimate cause, and it may be both.
Matter.
But number one that happened, Google dropped its "Don't be evil" motto, and Google makes all of its money from spam and advertising.
Yeah. So basically, is this 100% true? I don't know. But you can't, looking at the evidence, it's hard to believe anything else. Google makes money from these sites that are full of ads. Google doesn't really make as much money if you end up going to Wikipedia, which isn't hosting Google ads. They don't make as much money if you go to the official Python documentation that doesn't have any ads on it, right? So if you Google search something and you're not using ad blocks or anything, like if you're a normal person, you Google search something, you see ads, the Google makes money. If you click on those ads, that Google makes money. If you click on a result, right, Google will only make money if you go to a page that has Google ads on it.
Which implies even if every human inside of Google wants to do the right thing, Google as an entity is incentivized, even indirectly or via dark patterns and entirely without any one human deciding to do this, it will gradually incentivize anything that causes the ads to be clicked on more often. And thus, the entity that is Google has a vested interest in spam results coming up frequently enough for people to click on them.
Whether that is truly their nefarious and evil intent, the fact remains that if Google were to go and remove, there's like some of these, it's so easy. It's like there's just domains that you can see the whole domain is nothing but content farm bullshit. It would be trivial for Google to just reckon a human to just there aren't that many of them, right? It's like it wouldn't be, indexing the whole internet is not a problem humans can solve, but manually taking in reports of which domains are evil and completely eliminating those domains from the index entirely is something that could be achieved with human effort in short order, right?
It's a pretty short list. Like you showed me that list of the most frequently blocked domains on that paid searcher trying out Kagi, and it's like a who's who of the domains I would block instantly.
A huge amount of the problem could be solved. Like Google could just be like, you know what? No more Pinterest results in Google Images. That would take 2 seconds for Google to do.
Oh my God, that would make my life a lot better.
Right, exactly. They just don't do it. They just allow that to continue when it'd be trivial to stop. And just say, sorry, your website is a bunch of bullshit. You're doing bullshit on your website. You're blocked. Google could do that, and they don't, right? So the fact that they don't sort of tells you all you need to know, right? There is an easy thing they could do to fix this problem, and they don't.
But there is a second problem happening, and this isn't Google's Yeah, but this isn't Google's fault. This is the combination of the proliferation of content farms means that the majority of the content on the internet is content farms, and that is accelerating due to ChatGPT and large language models. Like, shit garbage content farm stuff is going to be almost every website on the internet, like within a year or so. It's probably already the majority of all websites you could ever hit with a browser if you could hit every website.
If they refuse to block domains, and they index the whole internet, the Google search results are naturally, no matter what the algorithm is, a reflection of the content on the internet. And if the majority of the content on the internet is just a bunch of bullshit, the majority of the search results are going to be just a bunch of bullshit.
Now,
you would need some special search engine, right? Where I don't know how you'd figure out which domains are hosting real content and only index those and don't search the rest of the web at all.
Now, one way to approach this would be, now, from a technology standpoint, if the internet is flooded with large language model and ML generated content farm bullshit, but at the same time, the users of a search engine want to find real content, then other machine learning models could be used to prioritize content people actually want to see, and it would just be a battle between two competing AI networks. The problem is, nobody makes money if you do that, and that would be very expensive to do.
The people with the AI that fights to get the spam in have a source of revenue. The people who have the AI to keep the spam out it's just a cost hole. It's just a money hole. Right?
But I think you could solve this problem.
The value you get out of that doesn't come in dollars. It comes in human time, and whatnot.
But I think, to your point, at least for the next 5 or 6 years, you could stop the bleeding in a material way by blocking a finite, well-known number of domains and just agreeing, fuck these websites and fuck these domains.
You could just it's like, you'd be surprised. We keep talking about ML and AI and stuff like that, right? There are some surprisingly simple techniques that are like so brain dead, yet so ridiculously, like, surprisingly effective. The old Bayesian spam filter, algorithm, that shit still works.
Yep.
Right? It works impressively well even now. Is it perfect? No. Is it as good as what we have now? No. But it works really, really well.
Yep.
Like, you'd be shocked at how well it works. There are other methods. For example, like, if you want to get rid of listicles, right, which are a really common SEO framework, trick, right? If you just filter out all websites that have like certain patterns of phrases in the title, like top number in year number, or top X in top number X. The title of the webpage is always going to be some form of that pattern. You could just take any website that has that pattern in the title and eliminate it from the search results entirely.
Yep. Or you could even say, go ahead and
search query also matches that pattern.
That's what I was about to say. If I type
listicles on purpose.
Yeah, if I'm searching for listicles, return me listicles.
Right. And it's like, that cleans the search results up like super, super hard.
But even better, human curation, because the bad content is so obvious and comes from so few sources, and that's not going to change as quickly as everything else. Most ad block software to this day relies on a surprisingly short human curated list of URL patterns and domains.
It's like the ad block people are human curating lists of bad domains. You could just go get like Easy List or one of those ad block
apply
lists,
it to Google, good to go.
And just Google would end up blocking its own stuff because Google Analytics is on most of those lists. But all of those lists. But yeah, you would just remove those from the search index. Like, if it's a site, or you could also like look, Google is looking at the source code of every web page, right? So they could be like, all right, if we detect that on the web page there is some sort of anti-ad block measure, then we will remove that site from the search index. If we detect that on the web page there is some sort of various kinds of bullshit scripts and tracking, we'll remove that from the search index.
Yep.
No one will ever find that web page, right, in our search results. That would be very easy for Google to do. Of course, they won't do that.
Yep. It would be better for the users, better for humanity, better for society, better for the internet, worse for Google, worse for the people who invest in Google, worse for scammers and advertisers.
Well, why doesn't someone come around and compete with Google and do exactly what I just said? Wouldn't all the users go there? And the answer is yes and no, right?
Yep. I mean, case in point, look at TV, YouTube without ad block. A lot of humans don't have a lot of money because capitalism. They are more than willing to just accept all that crap to get free content.
Right. But also, it's like, all right, let's say if I want to make a search engine to compete with Google, right? To build it from nothing is so incredibly difficult, right? Think about some of the features Google has, like when you misspell something, but they know what you actually wrote.
Yep.
Or having all those bots and all those computing resources index the entire web over and over again.
Yep.
Updating the content quickly. It's like, it is such an enormous sunk cost to get into the business, right? It's like, oh, I'll just I want to compete with Samsung and making TVs. It's like, all right, you have enough money to make a TV factory?
Yep.
No, I don't, right? Well, then you can't even get started in that business, can you, right? So to make a search engine that's actually scalable, indexing the whole web is such an enormous endeavor, you can't get in the business, right? And even if you could, and you behaved and you did some of those good suggestions we talked about and maybe some more, how would you make any fucking money?
Because you can't make the money Google makes with advertising, because advertising is the thing everyone's trying to escape and avoid. And even though there are ways to escape that in many forms of media, most people don't. Like I do. If there was no way to watch YouTube without ads, I would never watch a YouTube video again.
Yep. So there is actually, I recently discovered somebody who did make a search engine, right? I don't want to advertise them, but they made a search engine that is a not free search engine. It's like you can use it for free and do like 100 searches, and then it's like, all right, you're done.
You blew through that in like 10 minutes, I want to say.
I went through it in exactly 24 hours. It's like I started a free trial one morning, and the next morning, it's like your free trial's done. You did 100 searches. Too bad. And you can pay real money after that point to get, either a limited number of queries or pay more money to get infinite queries. And is the search engine better? Yes, it's better, right? Is it worth paying for? It's like, maybe if you do 100 searches a day like I do, maybe, right? Maybe. Is it perfect though? No, it still has a lot of problems because it's a small little company,
but
right?
It's a different paradigm, because the fundamental problem with almost everything we complain about and have complained about on the internet as two guys doing a podcast since 2005 is that if you pay for a product, you are paying for the product. If you don't pay for the product, you're still paying, but you're paying in some other way. And generally, products you pay for with money are almost always better than products you pay for with anything else.
Yep. But yeah, this pay search engine has quite a few features. For example, the ability to block domains you don't want to see in results. You can manually raise and lower some domains, and you can actually pin a domain and saying, if this domain is in the results, always put it at the top.
Yep.
It tells you, there's a little thing you can click on. It'll tell you whether the website in the search result has like ad trackers on that website. If the website's fast or slow, there's a quick links to like open the result in, the web archive, or, to summarize the page for you. There's, they're on the right track with a lot of their features. And I'd say it's better than DuckDuckGo, at least, for my using it. The question is, for you individually, are you searching so much that you're going to pay money?
Yep. I mean, same thing with YouTube. Right. How many of you are using YouTube with the ads because you have to prioritize not paying however much that costs a month because capitalism?
Yep. So I can't recommend that everyone pay for it, right? Even though, because it's not like dramatically better, right? It's like I was living with Google just fine.
Yep.
It's like you have to be a really search heavy person for it to be worth it for you.
Yep. And it still is searching the enshittified web filled with content farm nonsense everywhere.
Yeah, it's like it's not completely immune from bad results, because you're still searching the web. The web is the web, right? They're doing their best.
We could see a divide over time. Remember in the old days where back when we said search engines barely worked, there was the LexisNexis where you could pay.
It still exists.
Yeah, but there were professional searches of that was one example. There was a bunch of them. Usually they were all industry or domain specific, and they were not cheap. They were very expensive. I could definitely see a future, like in the next few years even, where there are a proliferation of domain-specific, very expensive search engines that are curated by or offered by professionals in industries aimed at professionals. Just like Creative Cloud, Adobe software is marketed at professionals, and you pay a lot of money for it, which will lead to, once again, a bifurcation between the internet that most people have access to and the rich professionals' internet that is completely different and just better in every way.
The thing is, people don't really want that so much. Right?
Oh, I'm not saying people want it. I'm saying it's going to happen.
I don't know. I think, you look at nothing stops people right now from going to Wikipedia and searching instead of going on Google for a Wikipedia.
I do that often. I search Wikipedia directly way more often than I use Google because honestly, 90% of the time, if I'm typing anything into Google, I would just be looking for a specific Wikipedia page.
Right, but I guess you're a weirdo, but most people don't actually do that so much, right? It's like people go to Google, search, and might end up on the Wikipedia result. But it's like there's other information out there, right? That, on the whole web. And as soon as you have these sort of sealed off, siloed things like that, which are domain specific, there's a whole lot of stuff out there that you're now missing. Right?
Yep.
And it's not all of it is the bullshit. There's good stuff out there that it's that's what you really want out of the search engine is that's the success is if the search engine can find something that's high value, that's just out on the web, right? You never would have found any other possible way. That's the real goal of that. And that happens, I think, not very often.
Well, I think that is more the curated internet is the real future where I get the impression a lot of Geek Nights listeners, the listener, a big part of what you like about our thing is just those things of the day. Because every couple days, here's 2 links you might not have clicked on, you never would have found in a Google search, and it's a curated feed of things we liked that we saw on the internet. Oh, we've gone on an hour and 20 minutes. We could probably just stop.